Hi there guys, have another 7.62 by 39 millimeter ammo review for you today. This is yet another Chinese Norinco product, some commercially manufactured, sold and distributed Norinco ammunition for the caliber, and in this case it's a little different. It's actually the lead core loading and it's the non-corrosive loading. So this stuff was manufactured about 20 odd years ago, and it was sold quite widely, so you'll come across it at gun shows and so forth and so on. It comes up, actually we had some come into Canada, I think it was last year. There was some sort of leftover stuff that never made it to the US that ended up coming to Canada, so there was some significant quantities of it sold here in Canada in the last year or two. And this is pretty decent ammunition. I've fired a good quantity of it over the years. The accuracy is good, reliability is good, and it is actually non-corrosive, as the box says, unlike some of the other Norinco ammo from that era that might or might not actually be non-corrosive. You can't really trust all of it based upon the box labeling. But basically, you know, a commercial product came in I think it was a 1,200 rounds per wooden crate. And there was a plastic bag inside the wooden crate. It didn't have the sort of military style of Spam can that you see with a lot of 7.62 by 39 ammunition. So a fairly plain looking kind of a silver gray box. I usually just refer to this stuff as Norinco silver box. Just an easy way to keep track of which loading I'm talking about. And it's got the usual warnings on the back. China North Industries Corporation, Beijing, China, with the Norinco logo. Of course, a 20 round box of ammunition, and inside the box we've got a kind of a cheap styrofoam divider, and we have this steel cased ammunition, and this is a full metal jacket loading. And let's see the head stamp here, get the camera to focus. It is factory 71/93, so year of production 1993, so that's going back a few years now. And as I said, steel cased. We've got, I think it's sort of a parkerized finish on the case, and then there's appears to be like a lacquer over the top of the parkerization to keep it, you know, basically rust-proofed to some degree. So that's what the round looks like. Like I said, good reliable ammunition, and fairly accurate for a military style of loading. So as per the usual practice I have with these videos, I pulled apart 10 rounds of this ammunition. Actually, I pulled apart a little more than 10 rounds, but I did pull apart 10 to examine the contents. So let's have a look at what this stuff is like inside. Here's the bullet. And it's where's my magnet? It is a steel jacketed bullet with a gilding metal kind of plating on top of the jacket. Got a cantilure here, and unlike the common steel core ammunition in this caliber, this is a flat base instead of a boat tail. So the bullet is considerably shorter than a boat tail 7.62 by 39. Here's a sectioned, get the camera to focus again. Here's a bullet I sectioned that's got the steel core, and just to compare the length of them, you can see how much shorter the lead core bullet is, because of course lead being much more dense than steel, you end up with a shorter bullet. Of course you don't have the boat tail, but really not a big deal with this caliber, because this is certainly not a long-range round by any stretch of the imagination. So let's have a look at, I weighed these all out. Let's see what our weights are here. So we've got 10 bullets that I weighed. There are the individual numbers. And we had an average of 128.2 grains. The heaviest one was 128.9. The lightest was 127.5. So a fairly large extreme spread of 1.4 grains over those 10 bullets. So obviously no pretense at being any kind of match grade ammo by any means. We got a standard deviation of half a grain over those 10 rounds. So not really super consistent in the weight category. However, that is probably not as important as you might think, especially when you compare it to the alternative, which is the steel core ammo. Lead core bullets, I've actually got one of these that I've sectioned up. Lead core bullets, here's one I cut in half, and you can see the steel jacket there with the light. Hopefully it shines up a little bit better there, and the lead core inside. So we've got a solid lead core with no airspace, unlike some of the 7.62-39, like the Yugoslavian stuff. Apparently has a lead core, but it has an airspace in the front. This runs right to the front of the jacket, and we've got a little bit of a concave on the back of the bullet from the forming process. So that's what one of these looks like, cut in half. But as I was sort of saying there, the fact that the bullet weights vary a bit is not as big of a deal with this caliber as you might think, because compared to these steel core ones, it's a lot simpler to make a bullet of this type, being basically only two pieces. There's no separate core that can get off center, so it's a lot easier to make a lead core bullet accurate than it is a steel core bullet, because you've got a jacket, a steel core, and then a lead envelope around that steel core. So you've got three pieces, and the steel core can be misaligned a little bit, or the lead can be a little heavier on one side than the other, and it will throw the balance of the bullet off. So, you know, it's a lot harder to make this stuff shoot accurately than it is a simpler bullet such as this, you know, two-piece design. Anyway, so that's enough about the bullet. We'll have a look at the powder. Nothing really terribly surprising there. Let's have a look at how far up in the case the powder comes. A little light on it there. You can see that the case is quite full of powder. It comes up to just about the junction of the case neck and the shoulder, so it's about as full as you can get it. Pretty near 100% loading density, which is pretty common with this small cartridge. There's not a lot of room in it, so they have to make the most of the available space, which tends to fill the case up with powder. We've got a short-grained extruded style of powder, sort of an IMR style of powder. Once again, nothing really very surprising there. It's very standard looking powder to see in this loading, this cartridge. And once again, I weighed 10 powder charges. So there are the individual weights of the individual powder charges. We've got an average of 25.8 grains, a high of 26 grains, low of 25.5 grains for an extreme spread of half a grain, and a standard deviation of only 0.2 of a grain, so very very uniform as far as the powder charges go. Oh, one thing I should go back to with the discussing these bullets when I was mentioning the weight. These are substantially heavier than most of the 7.62-39 ammunition you will find, with an average weight of 128.2 grains. Most 7.62x39 bullets weigh 123 grains. So a little bit more bullet weight in these than the average loading you'll come across, and that can affect the point of impact of your with your rifle. If you've got your rifle sighted in with the 123 grain and you shoot this, you will generally find that it will shoot to a different point of aim. Generally speaking, a little bit lower, I think, from what I've seen. So the heavier weight of bullet leads to a little bit different point of impact. So something to keep in mind if you've got a rifle sighted in for a 123 grain load and you shoot this heavier stuff, which is, you know, basically 128 grains. That extra weight will change the point of impact that you've got. All right, so we'll set that powder aside, and let's have a look at the cartridge case itself. So we already had a look at the head stamp there, 71/93, factory 71 over the year of production 1993, and we've got I think it's a 215 inch Berdan primer. You can see there's a red lacquer seal around the primer to waterproof it, and the case is of course steel. As I mentioned, it appears to be kind of a parkerized finish or phosphate finish with some sort of a lacquer over the top of that finish to provide some rust proofing. If you shot a significant amount of this stuff, you might find that the lacquer would come off in the chamber of your gun. I haven't shot enough of it in any one go to have that be a problem, but I can see where it could theoretically happen. Somebody who shoots a lot of rounds at one time might find that to be a problem. Like I said, no big deal for me. And let's see if we can get some light into the cartridge case there. It's kind of hard to show you this because the cartridge case is so dark to start with. But there is actually an asphalt sealant on the inside of the cartridge case. It doesn't show up really all that well because of the parkerizing makes the case dark to start with. But there is asphalt sealant around the inside of the case. So that's I guess that's about enough for the bench top portion of the review. And we'll move out to the range and we'll do some accuracy testing with this particular loading out of the Ruger 77 Mark II. Alright, let's have a look at the chronograph readings out of the Ruger 77 using the Norinco silver box non-corrosive 7.6239. Fired a total of 10 shots. Average of 24.28. Extreme spread of 48, standard deviation of 16, and here are the 10 shots. Okay, here is a 10-shot group at 100 yards with the Ruger 77 Mark II using the Chinese silver box 7.62 by 39. Not a terrible group for surplus style ammunition.